You know those VR titles where you have to control a bunch of stuff in front of you, like Diner Dash Duo or Job Simulator?
Yeah, and we just looked at one last week, Mortars VR, that had a lot of stuff going on. So totally, I know quite a few of those types of VR games where you have to use your hands a lot. It's a very active experience.
Right, and you're kind of just doing a job or something like that, where you're in an area in front of you and you have to do stuff. Prison Boss VR is another one that was kind of like that. There's a good, healthy amount of games that are like that, where you're standing in one spot and completing some sort of various activities. This is that, but you also have a horde-based shooter involved.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me. Horde-based shooters are probably the most common thing I see in VR, mostly.
They're really common, but this one does it well. It's super fun, and I had a blast with it because it's not just a horde-based shooter. If this was just a horde-based shooter, it would be a bad one. And if it was just a job simulator-esque game, it would be an okay one. But by combining the two together, man, it's neat. It's just super neat. This is Shooty Fruity. Hey guys, this is Moriarty.
And this is Brax.
And you are a grocery store attendant who has to bag up stuff, but the fruit is revolting.
Those dastardly fruits.
You have to kill them before they kill you.
I actually saw the trailer for this a while ago because I was interested in it for PSVR. Haven't been able to play it. So I am automatically interested again because the way that the guns float by in front of you is really interesting. I like being able to grab stuff in VR, and I like being able to shoot stuff in VR, and it seems like I get to do both in a really fast-paced experience. So how exactly does checking the items out work, though? Like, is that required? Do you have to check the items out and then pick up a gun and shoot, and then check the items out and pick up a gun and shoot? Is that how it's working?
You have your two hands, so what I ended up doing was just holding one gun in one hand and then checking everything out with the other hand. And it provided this incredible fast-paced experience where you are looking down and swiping stuff across, and then you're looking up real quick and you see something bouncing, so you shoot it, and then you're checking items out again, and then you're shooting, and then you're checking items out again, and then you're shooting. It was very cool. I had a lot of fun with it. Now, one of the nice things is that you see these guns floating in front of you. The reason is that you do not reload. Instead, you just grab a new gun. And the more points you have in your level, so the more things you check out, or the more guys you kill, the more guns you unlock. And you can choose which guns you want. So you can have a base level gun, and then a next level gun, and then a next level gun, and so on. And as you get more and more points, you will unlock more and more guns to use, and they will come across on the conveyor belt, and you just use them till they're out of ammo, and then get to the next gun.
I think it's pretty intuitive of them to have it where you don't reload the guns, because that way you can use the one hand to check out and then use the other hand to shoot. But also the idea of dual wielding shotguns is amazing too. So I guess you can play it any way you want to, really, right?
Pretty much. And the thing is that this is a game that has some of that mobile game aesthetic with like multiple stars for each level. You can go back and play a level again to get more stars on the level. And the way that you unlock the various stars is by completing certain objectives in each level. So it might be kill 6 fruit with a shotgun. It might be get 1,000 points in 10 seconds. Or it could be check out 40 items. And if you manage to complete all of them, then you unlock all of the stars for it. There's also a weapons upgrade and unlock system where you can use the points that you get from each level to buy new items, which is super neat. The whole thing is neat. It's a really well done game, and I absolutely enjoyed every second that I was playing of it.
It looks really thematic. Like everything in the game seems to be based on that same theme. Like even if you're upgrading and you're not in a mission, then it still feels like it's the same aesthetic appeal, right? I love it when games do that, and when it feels like you're going into a whole different world from top to bottom, and like the entire thing feels the same.
Absolutely. This does a really, really good job. On top of that, they did one thing that I actually totally appreciate, because we've talked about this before in other games. It starts you off at the lowest visual graphics. So you step into the game, and it doesn't look great. But you can go and you can change that and turn up the graphics as you please. But it starts you off in that lowest one, so you don't instantly get sick because of low frame rate. That's a really nice thing to have. A developer has to assume that you have the lowest requirements to run VR, and this one does that. and then you can upgrade it, and it looks really pretty when it's all the way up.
Good. That has been a problem in the past where they haven't done it that way, so I'm glad that this developer has actually intelligently realized that it's best to do it that way. I'm guessing that it does let you know also that you can turn up the graphics if you want to, but we're starting you on lower graphics, or do you just have to figure out that you can turn them up?
That's the one thing. It doesn't openly say, hey, by the way, we're starting you on low graphics. It doesn't do that. And that kind of sucks. I wish that it did start that way. I think that every game in VR should just start up with a graphics menu. I feel like that's the way they should do it. They should say, hey, by the way, you're on low, and if you want to upgrade it, here's how you do it. I actually only found out because I wandered through and found the options menu, which was hidden as an arcade cabinet.
Luckily you found it. But yeah, it would have been nice for them to include that, but it's not that big of a deal, I suppose. I mean, most of the time in VR, going into the options menu is one of the first things that I'll do as a player, just because of controls and seeing like how I can play and what different ways there are. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be there for players when they hop in to automatically be told, you should adjust your graphics accordingly, especially for PC players, people that are using an actual rig to play these games. That could really change the experience.
Now, this comes from the developers of a game called The Assembly, which was a VR title that came out early in VR's history. It came out in mid-2016. And it got a lot of really negative press because of how they had done everything. It was a non-VR/VR game. They were really ambitious about it, but it was considered to be very boring. The graphics weren't great. Like, altogether, it was a poorly received game. Most people said, yeah, it was okay. And I feel like if you make a game that is, yeah, it's okay, that's kind of a bad game. This seems to be their apology to VR players, in that it is absolutely designed, I want to say perfectly, but I mean, obviously no game is perfect, but it's pretty well done. Everything was smooth and good, and it felt good to play, and it was fun. And that's really, that's the thing. It was fun, and it was just so neat. And I had a lot of good times playing the game. I went through it, and I found myself enjoying myself. Like grabbing various machine guns off the thing and upgrading my weapons and going in and saying, I bet I could do that one again and do it better.
And it appears that this one is developed for VR. With the other one being non-VR, that may have played a part in it to some extent, but this one seems like that was the initiative, that was the focus. We are doing this for VR players, and we're going to build it from the ground up in that way, which is much more satisfying.
Well, not only that, it also feels like it's algorithmically built. Sort of like Netflix decides to make their shows because they've seen that people are searching for robots and time travel, so they make a show that is about robots time traveling. Well, this feels like exactly that, because this is, hey, people really liked Job Simulator, and they really like wave-based shooters, so why don't we just combine the two?
There you go, and it seems to have worked, right?
It does work. It's a good game. It's a lot of fun. I don't know that we're talking a long-term appeal here necessarily, because it still has a really repetitive core mechanic, which is grab a gun, shoot the things, and then swipe stuff to your left. And occasionally you have to complete these challenges, which may be kill something with X gun or kill X amount in whatever time. So I worry about the longevity of this title for that reason. I think that when we're talking about a title that you're going to be playing for years, you probably want to have a little bit more to it.
Absolutely. It seems to me the way it would work is the more that you play, the more weapons you unlock. The more weapons you unlock, the more of the bad guys, the fruit that you can kill. Then the more fruit you can kill, then you get another new gun or a new weapon. But it seems like after you unlocked all of the weapons in the game, which might not even take that long, that would be kind of the end of the experience, right? So there wouldn't necessarily be any longevity there. How long do you think it would take to unlock all of the weapons in the game?
I feel like you can probably get through most of the stuff in this game in, let's say, 8 to 10 hours, right? You can get through just about everything. Is that bad? Not necessarily. Again, it's a good game and it is fun, and I had a lot of fun. The entire thing is well designed. It's a very solid game, but make no mistake that even though they've added in the job simulator aspects, it is still a wave-based shooter. That is really what the primary, if I were to give it a genre, primary genre of it is.
Right, and that is easy to tell. It isn't as if I haven't seen this before. This is a wave-based shooter, and in terms of the core gameplay, what you can expect out of that isn't something fresh and amazing or innovative. It just seems to me like the theme of it, the aesthetic of it, is sort of a saving grace in that regard, because at least it does feel unique and charming because of all the colors, and everything does feel like a supermarket. But like you said, with 8 to 10 hours, and after you finished all 24 levels, unlocked all of the weapons, maybe it would be a good idea if there were added on content in the future or something more.
That's the kind of thing that I feel like I would like to see. So it is a wave-based shooter. It is a charming wave-based shooter. It has some interesting additional aspects, so it's given itself a twist, which I am a fan of. I think that if you're going to make a wave-based shooter in today's market, and really ever, it shouldn't just be another wave-based shooter, right? Like, that shouldn't be what you're playing. So they did a good job with that, and I absolutely applaud them for it. I just am concerned that if you were to play this and you were to buy the game at its full price and you paid and you played it for 8 hours and you'd completed everything, would you ever pick it up again? No, probably not. You probably wouldn't. And if you're not a fan of wave-based shooters, is there any reason to pick it up? No, probably not, because it's a wave-based shooter. So as long as we are really clear on those two things, then yeah, absolutely, it's a good game and it's fun.
The way I think about it is, if you already have 2 or 3 wave-based shooters in your library, and odds are, if you're a headset owner, you do by now, because there have been so many of them to come out, would you be willing to pay $20 for another one that really doesn't do anything special, but it does look cool?
And I feel like that's really the discussion here. So it is $20, and I feel like for people who don't have 15 different wave-based shooters in their library like we do, or for people who are looking for something a little bit new in that genre, then yeah, $20 is a great price and you should pick it up. This is a good game. And I don't want to have that buried by anything else that we're saying. It is a good game and it is a good wave-based shooter. It is still a wave-based shooter. Yes, $20 is a good price for that. And for those people who like these games, and for those people who don't have them or have never played them, or somebody who really liked Job Simulator but wanted some more into it, or some, people who like these things, and it feels so, I don't know, wishy-washy to say people who like this game will like this game, but that's kind of how you gotta look at it.
Well, when we're sitting in this position where so many of the games are this type of game in VR, we are really left with no choice but to talk about it in this way, right? If in the non-VR world there were only 2 or 3 different genres of games that were coming out steadily, then it would be the same way then. Like, why would I buy an RPG if 80% of the games that were made were RPGs? Because they would all feel the same, just slightly different. That's unfortunate. It kind of makes me sad, and I want developers to branch out and do different things, because hey, you guys have mastered the art of horde-based shooter in VR, okay? We get it. They're fun, they're charming, they're neat, they're cool, and you guys have perfected the craft. I mean, most of them are running really smoothly. Like this game, Shooty Fruity, it works really well. It is fun, but we've done that. Can we, do something else?
That's what they try to do here, is do something else. The game's fun, it's cute, it's very charming, it plays well, it's attractive. I mean, like, it's got everything that you would want in a wave-based shooter. So for that, absolutely I recommend it, because it is probably the best example of what it could be. There's not a whole lot of really good wave-based shooters out there. And when we see them, it's something that has always done the wave-based shooter genre differently. Whether it be Killing Floor Incursion, which added in missions and movement and going and doing things and having an objective, which made that wave-based shooter more fun, or whether it be the Serious Sam versions, which have always been wave-based shooters, but they added in the co-op multiplayer that you really wanted, and it was fun, and you had these massive monsters, or whether they added in various stuff. Like, there's all these games that have done it well and differently in some small way, and this continues to do that good, and I feel like that's a bad, somebody's going to correct my grammar on it. It does it good, but it also does it well.
It does it good, it does it well. And I guess what it brings to the table, it took wave-based shooter and it added Job Simulator in with it. So it's like they took the two and made a VR stew.
What is it with you and stew?
I don't know. I always talk about stew. There's no garlic in this one this time, though.
Always stew. So there you go, guys. That is Shooty Fruity. I think it's a fantastic game. You should pick it up if you're interested in it. There you go. There's my caveat. If you want to say I'm bad at this, I understand. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like and share it. And if you didn't, then don't do either of those. But if you did enjoy this, you can watch another video up there in the corner. And as always,
We'll see you guys on the next one.